Hey, everybody. Happy True Crime Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing really well this evening. First of all, I want to thank everybody. Y'all can see, oops, I'm always backwards. You can all see my overlay has changed to recognize what's going on with me. For those of you who might be new turning in, my name is Lori Hellis. I'm a retired criminal and family attorney and the author of their book on the Vallow case. And so I want to say thanks to everybody who sent such kind messages. So many of you shared with me that you've already been down this road and you have walked your own breast cancer journey. So never expected it in a million years because, don't have a family history, and, it came as a bit of a surprise. But we are doing well. Um, I have met with the surgeon, I have met with the medical oncologist, I've met with radiology. I have one more I had an MRI. I have one more, lymph node biopsy to do, next week, and then I meet with my surgeon. Tentatively, we're talking about surgery somewhere around April 14th, mid-April. So, it was discovered on a routine mammogram, so discovered very early. It's small, and, it appears at this point that it has not moved into lymph nodes. So, keeping our fingers crossed for that and, hoping for, a really good outcome. I'm really confident. I really like all of my doctors, and I'm very confident that that I'm gonna have a good outcome. So, just thanks so much for all your prayers, your good juju, and for sharing your stories with me because we are women of a certain age, and I know that there have been many of you who've already been through this. I have noticed that there have been some new subscriptions to Substack. We're still kind of working through getting the kinks out of making sure that everything's linked together and that our website, our single website, sends you all to the right places. But I have been working on a new, um, I guess, blog. I'm not really sure what to call them these days. A new article about sovereignty and the whole sort of how sovereign citizenship plays into that. So I'm working on that. But I've been sort of slowed up a little bit by some of the other stuff that's been going on recently. So tonight, I want to really focus on. Hi, Julie Reichart. It was great to talk to you on the phone. Julie is one of my OG friends from Boise, and we've been hanging out and having lunch together for a long time. I met her through the channel, along with several other women in Boise who really welcomed me when I moved to Boise. And I moved there to write the Vallow Daybell book. So tonight I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk in depth about Kelsey Fitzsimmons and the trial that's been going on for her. Sorry about that. Um, so the trial started yesterday. Was it only yesterday? And today? Yeah. And the trial got underway. She waived jury. So the judge is the finder of fact in this case. So I wanted to do a couple things. The defense started putting on their case today. They had a handful of witnesses, but the most significant one was that Kelsey testified. So we're going to take a look at her testimony today. And I also wanted to go in depth on what it is the judge, sorry, has to look at, and the legal standard that he has to apply when he is the finder of fact and making the decisions. So we've looked before at jury instructions, and the judge said that he was going to model what he was going to consider on the jury instructions. So I wanted to take a look at what it is the judge has to do as this trial goes along. I also wanted to talk about Kelsey's family law case. So that's the other thing we want to talk about tonight. Um, and about one of the things that came out that I heard was that Kelsey's mother has been unable to see Kelsey's little boy since the shooting. She has not seen the baby since then either. And she has filed a request for visitation as a grandparent. So I wanted to talk a little bit about grandparent visitation and about what the court's going to be looking at as whether the grandmother really has any basis to look for to try and get visitation separate from Kelsey. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to take a look at Kelsey's testimony because I think this really plays into what the judge is going to have to consider. She did a great job in her testimony. I agree that I think she was very credible. And I think that she has far less reason to lie at this point. Um, and it seems to me that the police officer whose career is really on the line has a lot more reason to suggest that his shooting was justified. So, but I think it was very interesting to hear for the first time, really. We've heard her attorney tell us what the theory of the case is. We've heard her attorney say that she was um, attempting to take her own life, but we have not heard the details from Kelsey. And so I want to bring up my um, I want to bring up and share my screen. Um, this news feed is from Boston 25, as is required by fair use. We're going to stop and chat about some of these things, some of the things that she says. But let's take a look at Kelsey's testimony.
Thank you, Army. I inquire.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, miss.
Good morning.
State your name and spell your last name.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons, Fitzsimmons.
How old are
I want to let you know, if you have not been watching this trial, the sound in this courtroom has been abysmal. And the live streams have been done by news organizations. They're not, they don't have the sort of same sound quality that the big court TV and Law and Crime have. So um, let me know in the chat if there's any problem with you hearing my stream.
you?
I'm 29.
So, do you mind? I'm just pulling that mic a
Yes.
little bit closer just so that we can hear you.
Is that better?
And I didn't hear your last answer. Your
I'm 29 years old.
29. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
And what's the town of your residence?
Currently, Newburyport.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Methuen,
Methuen?
Massachusetts.
And did you live there your whole life?
Most of it, yes.
Did you go to high school there?
I did.
And where did you go?
Methuen High School,
When did you graduate?
2015.
And you lived there with your parents and your family?
Yeah, I lived with my mom and my dad. There were two different houses.
Tell the judge a little bit about your upbringing and your family in Hoosick.
So I have my mom, my dad, my mom Lauren, my dad Steven, my older brother, my biological older brother Steven Jr., and then I have my stepfather William Page, his two kids that I consider my brother and sister, Madison and William.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the names.
My younger brother and sister are Madison and William.
Madison and William. Did you say that they were step-siblings?
They are step, yes.
Try to keep your voice up.
Okay, sorry.
Use the mic, like,
Okay.
kind of like I am, like that.
Okay,
All right, thanks, Kelsey. So you guys are a close family, right?
yes,
And they've been with you through this process the whole time, right?
the whole time.
When did you graduate high school?
2015,
Did you go to college?
I did.
And where'd you get your degree from?
I got my degree from Fisher College. I got my Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice,
What year was that?
2020.
What were some of the awards and distinctions you received at Fisher College?
I think my junior year, I was inducted into the Criminal Justice Honor Society. In my senior year, I was voted in as the president of the Criminal Justice Club, and I just worked closely with campus police there and the advisor of the Criminal Justice Club.
Did you work while you were in college?
I did.
Where'd you work?
I worked for the college as a work study, and I also worked as like a host / waitress down the street at a restaurant called Cheers.
Did you do any security work?
Yeah, in 2016, I was hired by Fenway Park Security, and I believe I worked there in 2017. And like throughout all of Fisher College, I worked for campus police as a work study, like a dorm proctor, checking IDs of students.
After graduating Fisher College, you had the B. Is it a BA or BS?
Yes.
BS in criminal justice.
Yes.
And what was your kind of goal for your life and your career with that degree?
When I graduated, it was the peak of COVID, so everything got a little confusing on what my next steps were. My plan originally was to try to go straight to a police academy, but when I graduated, there was no police academies running, so I decided to, because I love school, I decided to further my education and go to law school.
Where did you go? And tell us about law school a little bit.
I went to Massachusetts School of Law. I did about 3 semesters, and then some academies started to run again.
And did that change your pathway?
It did.
What happened?
The Essex County Sheriff's Department started doing police Sheriff's Department academies again. So I applied to be a corrections officer, and that was in 2020. And I went through their academy in 2021.
Where's that academy?
Their academy is at the Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
And what was?
I think it's interesting that she started law school and did about a year and a half, which is about half of law school. And I am really hoping that this is the impetus for her to finish going to law school, because I think this experience will make her an incredible advocate for other young people, especially young moms. So I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that she makes that decision.
Was the course of study, just in general, what did it entail and how long was it?
It was 3 months. It had to do with just the training of being a corrections officer. Our whole job was safety and security of the inmates that were housed in the jail. So it went a lot into safety and security.
So you spent 3 months at the Sheriff's Academy,
Yes,
and you were hired by the Essex County Sheriff.
I was, yes.
When was that roughly?
That was in 2021. I think it was September of 2021.
What was your kind of original first assignment when you got to the Sheriff's Department? How did you start there?
I worked in housing. I was assigned to housing the whole time I worked there.
Did you have any other jobs while you were at the Essex Sheriff?
When you pick up an overtime shift there, they kind of just throw you in where somebody's needed. So I did a lot of different jobs just through all the overtime I worked, which included transportation of inmates to and from court. I would work in programs. They have church and school for the inmates that reside there. And there's outer perimeter security where you drive a cruiser around the perimeter of the jail to ensure no one's coming in or out. I did things like that on my overtimes.
Okay. And in terms of the transport, you were actually the person that kind of comes to here to court, goes into lockup, delivers prisoners, picks up prisoners, brings them back?
Yes.
How long were you at the Essex Sheriff?
About 2 years.
And at that point you had a career path decision, right? A
Yes.
different decision.
I did.
And what was that decision?
I always knew I wanted to be a police officer.
And was there some opportunities that came up in that respect?
Yes. While I was working for the sheriff's department, I had moved to North Andover. And I really liked the town I lived in, and I wanted to work in it as a police officer.
So what'd you do?
I applied to the North Andover Police Department.
Did you interview with Lieutenant Daly? Was it?
I did. He was on a panel interview. They call it like an oral board. It included Lieutenant Daly and several other members of the North Andover Police Department.
And I take it that you're not going to get hired there unless they approve you.
Yes.
And that happened, and you were hired.
Yeah, they do an extensive hire check.
Background check and so
Yeah,
forth.
like there's a lot that goes with it.
What you would expect in terms of a police officer getting hired.
Yes.
What's the first step when you get hired as a police officer? What do you do next?
You have to go to the police academy for 6 months.
So you've been through a 3-month Essex Sheriff Police Academy, training academy, and now you're about to start a 6-month North Andover Police Academy training, right?
Yes.
And where did that training take place?
That also took place down the hall at Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill.
And you spent 6 months going to that?
6 months, yes.
Was that, is that something where you like stayed there the whole time, or did you come and go? Did you commute? How does that work?
I commuted. I got there in the morning, left sometime in the evening, and we had weekends off. So it was 5 days a week.
When did you graduate from there?
I graduated in May of 2024.
And did you run for any positions within the academy that they have in your class?
Yes, while I was in the police academy, I ran for treasurer.
Sorry. She just seems like such a solid young woman. She's done not one, but 2 police academies. And she just seems so earnest and like she really had a very clear vision of what she wanted to do, where she wanted her life to go. So she just, I mean, as a mom of a young woman who is just about Kelsey's age, I mean, I think her family must be very proud of her. So,
And I became the treasurer of my class.
And what does that entail?
That entails everything financial through our academy. We had like academy dues. I would collect them, and we would purchase things that we wanted, such as like sweatshirts and sweatpants to wear for our PT days, as well as an academy sweatshirt. I also planned our graduation party. So I had to book it, collect the funds for it, and plan it essentially.
And is it a situation where there's different classes going on at once, like class of 2020, class of 2021, like that?
Yeah.
Right. And you were the class of 20?
Well, my class was called Rock 5. So I don't know how the numbers go, but the one before me was 4 and the one after me was 6. I was Rock 5, ROC 5.
All right. And when did ROC 5 graduate?
May of 2024.
And you graduated with the class?
I did.
And what was your first assignment with the North Andover PD?
You first go to patrol on FTO, and FTO is meaning you're with a field training officer.
so in most states have a police academy, and officers from all over the state may go to the same academy. So when she was attending the academy, it wasn't necessarily just for police officers in North Andover. It would be in a lot of the surrounding jurisdictions. So she was learning with a whole group of rookie cops, but not everybody was going to go to North Andover. So
So you ride with somebody in the same cruiser for a period of time.
And who were your field training officers?
So I had several, because you do different shifts. I had field training on day shift. My field training officer was Officer TERRI. I had field training on the 4 to midnight shift, and my field training officers were Officer Furman, now Detective Furman, and Officer Sousa.
The entire time you were there any other FTOs that you had? Just to kind of list them all out.
I think there's multiple officers there that are FTO trained, but those were the ones that were assigned to me to train me.
So you were, I'm sorry.
No. Can you just?
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple things going on in the courtroom. One, you can see behind her, there's a window open. And there was a lot of noise coming in through the window, but if you watch the Reed trial or any of the other Massachusetts trials and hearings that were going on, some of these courthouses are pretty old, and they don't have great ventilation systems. So as the trial was going on, there were a lot of sirens and a lot of noise from outside, and there were several times where the judge had to, or one of the lawyers had to stop and wait for whatever noise was going on to be over. Additionally, there were several times, and I give this judge credit, he was taking very copious notes, and there were several times that he said, "Okay, I need you to stop a minute while I catch up with my note taking." So he was working really hard to be extremely attentive to the testimony that he was hearing. And that's a little bit different role because generally the jury are the ones who are taking notes and are following the testimony, the details of the testimony very closely. And usually the judge is much more in a position where they're more focused on the rules of evidence and listening as the testimony is coming in from the standpoint of having to make evidentiary rulings. So this was quite different for this judge. He made the point that he has done bench trials before and that he has a certain process that he employs when he's doing bench trials. So it's not like he hasn't done this before, but it is a slightly different role, and it takes a slightly different level of concentration and maybe just sort of concentrating and focusing on different things. So um, you'll hear him, I think, in Kelsey's testimony at different times, ask her questions, asked for clarification. And these are things jurors can't do, which is another reason why um, the bench trial is different. And maybe in this case, I think my opinion in this case is a better fit for this hearing or this trial.
Thank you. So, Ms. Fitzsimmons, in your employ at the North Andover PD, you assumed the job of a regular patrol officer at some point, I take it?
Yes, I was a patrol officer.
And after you finish with field training officers, do they have some sort of a say in how you function in the field and report back to the administration or the supervisors about how you're functioning?
Yeah, so the supervisor on your shift, your field training officer gives them, I think it's a weekly report of how I did on calls and what calls we went on together and how I performed, stuff like that. And eventually, I think, I don't know exactly how many weeks I was on field training, but after it's complete, the sergeant will take you in his cruiser and you drive his cruiser and respond to calls or make traffic stops. And then he decides if you are signed off on, and I was signed off. And that day I got my own cruiser.
And when was that, if you remember, just roughly?
I think it was in end of June or early July of 2024.
And just a few things I want to just tick off on the list of things a police officer does. Did you serve restraining orders?
I have before.
Have you testified in court?
I have.
And you've made arrests?
I have.
Now, at the time, moving over to your personal life, at some point you met someone named Justin Elaine, right?
Yes.
And what was your experience with Justin Elaine in a nutshell?
My experience in a nutshell, we met through Facebook. We went on a few dates. We ended up hitting it off. While I was in the academy, we were dating. He is a North Andover firefighter. At my police graduation, he pinned me, and then I would see.
So, for those of you who aren't familiar with law enforcement, first responders, and military, um, pinning someone is a significant thing to do. Um, when you become fully qualified, whether you're being um, commissioned in the military, whether you're receiving your rank for law enforcement, it's a significant ceremony when you're pinned, and so not just anybody does your pinning ceremony. It's usually somebody who's important to you. It's your spouse, it's your mom, it's your fiance, it's somebody who is an important figure in your life. Not just anybody pins you. So um, it she's making the point that by the time she would graduated from the academy, he was significant enough in her life that he pinned her. Um,
him on calls sometimes, and we eventually moved in with each other. We got engaged. We had a baby.
And what was the baby's name? What's the baby's name?
My son's name is Caden.
How old is he today?
He's 13 months.
And Justin Elaine is the father?
He is.
What happened on June 30th of 2025?
On June 30th of 2025, I woke up in the morning.
Let me be more specific.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did he take any actions relative to you in terms of your relationship that day?
Yes.
And what did he do?
she's doing a very good job. Now, two things. She learned about how to testify in the police academy. She's testified before as a police officer, and I'm certain that her attorney has also done a fair amount of preparation with her. But she's very poised on the stand, and she's very good at only answering the question that's asked. You can see at several points she's like, I don't know. I don't, the question isn't pointed enough for me to understand where I'm supposed to go with this. But for the most part, she sticks to the questions, she's answering the questions that are asked, and she's trying not to get too far afield. So she's doing a pretty good job. But once again, she's trained.
He obtained a restraining order against me.
Is it fair to say that he broke up with you via a restraining order?
Yes. I did not speak to him. I realized our relationship was over when a restraining order was handed to me.
So let's rewind to the events of that day, okay? So that morning, were you home?
I was.
Who was home?
So my sister slept over the night previous, so June 29th to June 30th. So she was over in the morning.
Maddie.
That's Madison, yes. I was with my son. I had work at 1 p.m. I had to go to CPR training at 1 p.m.
Okay. Now, had you been out of work for a while?
I was, yes.
And when did you first go out of work?
I worked up until I gave birth. Caden came 5 weeks early, so I wasn't expecting it. So I went out basically the day I gave birth. And
his birthday is what?
February 16th, 2025.
Now, when you were seeking to go back to work, did you get cleared to go back to work in June of 2025?
Yes.
did that entail going through certain trainings and getting reviewed and stuff?
It did.
What was the event on the 30th that you had to do to finish that off?
I had CPR training at 1 p.m. on the 30th scheduled.
Was that your last thing you had to kind of go through?
That was it. Yep.
Were you seeking to see Justin Elaine that day?
Yes, we had spoken through text and on the phone in the morning. I was asking if he would come home because he hadn't been home in days to be with Caden while I went to work. And his response basically was, I can pick him up and watch him. And I said, you're not a babysitter. So there was a bit of argument about that.
Text argument.
Yeah, it was like, you're his dad. You're not a babysitter. You can come home. I don't understand picking him up and watching him. That was very odd for me to hear as his father.
Moms don't like when dads say they're going to babysit their own kid, right?
Yes, like you're your dad.
And at some point, just to kind of cut to the chase on that, you made a plan to meet up in North Andover?
Yeah, there was a lot of texting back and forth. He originally said yes, and then he said no, and then he said, I'll meet you tomorrow. And I said, you have work tomorrow? That doesn't make any sense. He worked a 24-hour overnight shift. So
Was there something about gas money as well?
yeah, he said that he couldn't drive from Stowe, Massachusetts to North Andover because he had no gas in his truck. And I just was trying to get him to meet me. I'm like, we need to figure this out. I go to work in a couple hours. Like, we need to figure this out. He called me while I was driving to work and said, I'm on my way to North Andover.
Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Let me just rewind you a little bit.
All right.
So there's some texting about this, right?
Yes.
And the texting that you have and that's been kind of passed around in the case, it doesn't end up with, okay, I'll come and meet you at the North Andover Common, right?
No.
So was that arrangement made outside of those texts?
Yes. Like looking back now, I think it was strategic, but
All right, well, just, I don't want to
that's just my opinion.
yeah, I don't want to ask for your opinion
Okay,
on it. I
sorry.
just want to, factually, I'd like to ask you, were there a couple calls back and forth that kind of
Yes.
set that up once and for all?
Yes, he called me on my way to work. I decided I'm going to bring my son with me, which wasn't a big deal. But when I was on my way, he called
Well,
me.
hold on a second. Just to be, yeah.
I just need to confer with our court staff. Mr. Ring, can you turn the?
There was a bit of a long sort of conference. It had to do with court operations and court staff, I think, or actually, I think what happened was Kelsey's mother had already testified and she was in the courtroom, and the prosecution insisted that she had to leave because they might call her as a rebuttal witness. As it was, they didn't offer any rebuttal, so it was kind of BS. It was sort of removing Kelsey's support while she was testifying, and I thought it was kind of crappy. But that actually is what happened. So we can get back to
Yeah,
this.
Yes.
Thank you. So, Ms. Fitzsimmons, the last discussion we were having was that you were arranging to meet Mr. Elaine at the North Andover Common, is that right?
Yes.
And did he call you about it when you were on your way to CPR training?
He called me. I think I was putting Caden in his car seat. I missed it. And when I got on the road, I called him back.
And what was the conversation about meeting up?
It was quick. It was, Kelsey, I'm on my way to North Andover right now. My mom just gave me gas money. I'll meet you at the Common at 2. And I said, okay, I love you, bye. And the phone call had already hung up.
Okay. And after that, you went to work
I went to work
with Caden.
with Caden.
And what was the schedule? What was on the schedule for today, for that day at work?
It was a 1-hour CPR training. So it was going to go to about 2 p.m.
So it was 1 to 2?
Yes.
Did you get there on time?
I think I got there a couple minutes early.
What was the layout when you got there? Who was there? Where'd you go? What was the general kind of mood of you going there?
So I I knew it was going to be held in the community room. I was told prior that's where it was going to be held. So right when you walk through the officer's entrance of the police department, the community room is the first door on your right. So I just entered right through there.
And you had your baby?
I did.
And it's fair to say this isn't a visit to the police department where you're in full uniform or anything, right?
No, I was in a t-shirt.
And that's because you're going to be training, working on, those rubber dummies that you trained for CPR with, right?
Yes.
Who met you when you got to the police department? Who was there?
Detective Gordon was conducting the training.
I'm sorry, did you say Gordon with a G?
Gordon, yeah, Gordon.
And you saw him?
Yes, he was conducting the CPR training.
Did you see any other friend and colleague officers around that time period?
I saw Lieutenant Domenico as well.
And did you have a chat with him?
We didn't really talk because I was in the middle of the training. It was just we waved to each other when he was walking out of the door.
What happened with Kaden while you were doing the training?
I asked Detective Gordon if he wanted to hold him because I figured he hasn't held a baby in a long time. So it's kind of funny seeing guys that haven't held a baby in a long time and they're like, but
Did he hold
he
you?
did, yeah.
And is he someone that you trust to hold your baby?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you let just anybody hold your baby?
No, Detective Gordon was my drill instructor for my 6-month police academy. So I knew him more because of that. I saw him every day for 6 months.
You trust him?
Yeah.
And how did the training go?
It went fine, normal, passed.
How long did it take?
It takes about an hour.
What time did you finish?
I think it was around 2 p.m.
Who else did you see while you were at the station?
Just Lieutenant Domenico. I was supposed to pick up my radio from an administration office upstairs. And I had texted the person that was giving me the radio and said, I'm just going to grab it tomorrow because I was more focused on go to the park. So I was like, I can just drive to the station tomorrow and grab my radio.
Were you, quote unquote, on the schedule?
Yes.
Start soon?
Yes.
And what was the schedule when you were going to start?
I was going on to the day shift, which is 8 to 4 p.m. And I was supposed to start on July 4th.
You left the police station at about what time?
Detective Gordon walked me to my car. I probably pulled out around 2:05.
Where'd you go?
I drove down Osgood Street to the Common.
Who's this guy, Hunter Hassan?
That was one of Justin and I's mutual friends that lives in the town of North Andover.
Did you go by his house?
Yes. So the only logical way to get to the Common from the police station is to take Osgood Street, which is what I did. And he lives on that street. So I had to drive by his house when I was on my way to the Common.
Did you see anything at his house that surprised you?
Yes.
What did you see?
When I drove by, I saw Justin's truck. And at first I thought nothing of it. I thought maybe he got into town before I got out of training and stopped in, like that would be normal. But then I started noticing other cars I recognized there as well. And
Whose cars were those?
I saw my maid of honor's car, Katrina Caruso. I also saw people standing outside near his pool. I know I saw his sister, Courtney, Justin's sister. And I know I saw Michelle Mitchell, which was another one of my bridesmaids. So I was like, what is going on right now?
This meeting was not something that you knew about?
No, I was supposed to be meeting Justin, and Justin was at our mutual friend's house with people. And I just was so thrown off. I was confused.
Did you actually see Justin as part of those people you saw around his pool?
I drove by quick. I saw a group of people. I recognized the trucks and the people I did definitively see, yes. I know Justin was there.
From the truck?
Yeah, from his truck.
Okay. So in terms of your confusion, are you wondering if he's there or if he got a ride to the Common or something like that? Why did you just stop there and say, hey, what are you doing?
Well, because I was just driving by, and then I was like, well, that was weird. So I tried calling Justin, and then that's when it just communication stopped. No more, he was not answering my texts. He was not answering any more phone calls. I even went as far to text his friend Hunter and say, what is going on right now? And am I allowed to say what Hunter said back to me?
So did he respond to you?
He did, yes.
Did it affect your state of mind about what was going on?
No, it confused me even more because he said, oh, everyone's just meeting up for people who forgot things at the house from the bachelorette party that happened a couple of days prior. He said everyone was meeting there to pick up things that they forgot. And I was like, meeting in North Andover. And I was trying to make sense of it. And I was like,
Did that add to your confusion?
yeah, because I was like, this person lives.
You already have a question?
I just, so who said this and how? I didn't catch.
So I had texted when Justin had stopped answering me.
Yeah.
I texted his friend whose house he was at, and I knew he was there because I had to drive by.
This is Hunter?
This is Hunter, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I texted Hunter, and he told me everybody was meeting there to get things that they left at the bachelorette party. And so that's in my mind, that made me even more confused. It didn't make sense because everybody lives here, there. Why meet in North Andover?
Let me stop you right there. So as a result of that kind of adding to your mindset, sounds like adding to your confusion, right?
Confusion, yes.
Did you stick to the plan to go meet him at the common, or did you divert somewhere else?
No, I went to the common.
And you got there what time?
It was probably like 2:10.
And did you wait there with Caden?
I did.
And approximately how long did you wait, if you can remember?
It was at least an hour. It could have been more.
Did you ever show up?
He never showed up.
What time did you make a decision to get out of there at some point?
Yeah, well, I was receiving other phone calls, which were adding to my confusion.
Not what was said, but from whom?
They were from Michelle.
And she was a woman who testified here yesterday, right?
Yes.
And she indicated that she was trying to meet up with you, and you were
Get coffee.
trying to focus on
I said,
meeting with
trying to
Justin.
meet Justin. Like, I love you. I'll call you later. I'm trying to meet my fiance at work.
To Michelle, you said that.
Yes.
Did you go home after that?
Yes.
What time did you go home?
It was at least an hour after 2 p.m. So sometime around maybe 3:30, because I know I was waiting a while at the park. Caden's bottle had run out of milk, or formula. I had to go home.
Now, as you sat here for the last couple of days, you've heard a lot of business about where you parked your car. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So you didn't park in your driveway, right?
No.
And you're adjacent to a school at 125 Phillips Brooks Road, right?
My neighbor to my right is
And
school.
I should say for the record, your home is 125 Phillips Brooks
That's
Road,
my home.
single family house in North Andover, right next to what school?
The Atkinson Elementary School.
And there's a big parking lot next to your fence line.
Yes.
And when you came back from the common, you parked in there.
Yes.
Why did you park in there?
Because I didn't know what was going on. I knew something was going on. I first have my fiance just not showing up to meet me and not talking to me anymore. And then somebody that doesn't know I saw them trying to call me, and they're trying to meet up with me. I'm trying to meet up with Justin. And a bunch of other people were there. That didn't make sense. And I thought they were going to come to my house or something. So I didn't want anyone to know I was home. So I just parked at the school.
Okay. Did this have anything to do with the North Andover Police Department?
Had nothing to do with the North Andover Police Department.
So you parked at the school, and as a young new mom, you probably had a lot of stuff you had to carry.
I had his diaper bag. I had him in his little carrier. And I think I had my phone in my hand and my house keys.
And you walked around and you went to your door.
Yeah, it was genuinely a 60-second walk
Okay.
to my car to my house.
Sure.
From my car to my house.
And you went into that porch door that we've seen on the video here.
Yeah, my
right?
front door, it leads to a porch.
And then you get up on the porch and make a left into another door into the house, right?
Yep.
Okay. What happened when you first got home? What'd you do?
I made Kaden a bottle. I called my mom. I asked my mom if she would come over because it was, what do I do? Like, what's going on?
So you wanted some support from mom.
Yeah, so like advice. My mom's my best friend. I knew she'd come over and maybe like have a
Figure
different.
this out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll withdraw that, Judge. I'm just trying to move on. What was your?
Mr. Great officer. I assume the objection is for leading?
Repeatedly, yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, if you can just stay away from leading, thank you.
What was your state of mind about having mom come over?
I was sad. I was really confused, and I wanted her advice.
How far away does your mother live?
She lives in Methuen, so it was about, her house is about 7 to 8 minutes away, but I think she was on her way home from work at the time, and she had to drive right by my house, or my old house.
How was Katie at the common and getting home? How was he behaving in terms of fussiness, or was he okay, or sleeping, or quiet, or what?
I ran out of his bottle while at the common. I thought I brought enough. I think if our plans played out, I would have had enough for taking a walk in the common. But because I was waiting for so long, I ran out of his bottle and he started crying. I drove right home.
And then at home, you made another bottle and started to give him the bottle.
Yes, beat him.
Okay. What time did your mother get there?
Only a lawyer would ask her if she was administering a bottle, for heaven's sakes. She was feeding a baby.
Approximately.
Like maybe 5 to 10 minutes after I got home.
And you sat, did you visit with your mom for a while and consult with her on the situation?
Yeah, we sat on my couch while I fed Kaden. She did some, like, my house was messy, so she was just trying to pick up around the house a little bit for me. We were talking.
Her mom was doing mom stuff. Her mom testified that she did the dishes and she was helping, I think, some laundry. And so she was just doing grandma stuff while Kelsey was feeding the baby.
And did she leave at some point?
She did.
When was that?
Probably had her over for about an hour. So maybe like 5 o'clock she left.
There's a little bit of an unusual situation. Kelsey's father is a security specialist. So when she bought this house, he put up cameras and a security system in her house. There wasn't any testimony about whether or not Justin had access to the camera feeds. However, you'll hear that it was only maybe 5 minutes after her mother left that the Andover police showed up to serve the search or to serve the restraining order. So I mean, the timing could just be a coincidence, but the timing is a little surprising because her mom was there, and yet they show up just a few minutes after she's left and Kelsey's home alone.
Was her car in the driveway?
Hers was, yes.
And obviously she got in the car and left in her car.
Yeah, I told her that I was going to be packing and probably going camping with my son, which is normal for me. My family owns land. We call it our happy place. I've been going there since I was a baby. So I was going to go there to clear my mind since Justin wasn't going to meet up with me. I just figured I don't have work till the 4th. So that's what I'm going to do. And
The idea of sitting around.
just,
Sustained.
I just didn't.
No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Just sustained.
Oh,
So next question.
Why did you want to go up to the land?
to clear my mind. I've brought Kate in there 2 times before, and like for a 4-month-old baby, he crushed it up there. He loved it. So I just thought, I texted Justin, I'm going to my land. He knows what that is. He proposed to me there. He knows I call it my happy place, and I told him I'll send you pictures when I get service, and I love you because there's not good service up there. And that was the last thing I ever said to Justin.
When your mom pulled out of the driveway, did you get a visit from the North Andover police?
I heard someone knocking on my front door when I walked up to the porch.
How long after your mom left did the police knock on your door?
I know now approximately 3 minutes.
And what were you able to do to figure it out pretty well?
My home has a lot of surveillance. My dad owns a security company, so my home had a lot of surveillance outside. So I was just curious, like, how long was it after my mom left that the police came? And I believe it was about 3 minutes approximately.
Can you use the video system to refresh yourself on time intervals and such?
Yeah, yes.
And while we're on that topic, are there timestamps on the clips from your house?
Yes.
And do you have any knowledge of the accuracy of those time stamps?
At some point, one of the daylight savings happened, so my cameras were 1 hour off.
And how off? Like which way off were they?
Like if it said it was 5 o'clock, it was actually 4 o'clock.
Okay, so it's an hour.
This whole exchange was very confusing because I think she had it backwards. Then he goes on to try and clarify it, and I'm not sure it ever gets 100% clear.
Okay.
So,
Hour ahead.
all right. So in terms of any clips that come from your house, does the timestamp show hour ahead?
Yes.
So are you referring to what's in evidence?
Yes.
Okay, all of those video clips?
Yes, Your Honor. So just want to make sure, did we say that right? That the clips are an hour ahead, or is the actual clip an hour behind?
I have to think about this. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We can come back to it later. I do that all the time. That's okay. How long after your mother left did you hear a knock on the door?
Like 35 minutes.
Where were you when you heard the knock?
I was sitting on the couch feeding Kaden in my living room.
What did you do when you heard the knock?
I put the bottle on the coffee table. I got up with Kaden in my arms and I opened up the door.
You walked out on the porch and
I walked out on the porch. So there's like 2 doors. My front door leads to a porched-in area. Walked out onto the porch and opened up the front door for 3 police officers.
And who were they?
It was Lieutenant Daly, Officer Noonan, and Officer Houston.
And Lieutenant, let's just go through each of them real quick for a second.
Okay.
Lieutenant Daly, you talked about in terms of training and hiring and all that, right?
Yes.
And what about Officer Noonan? What was your relationship at the time with Officer Noonan?
He had transferred after I had already started. We were on the same shift for a brief time. On one of our shifts, there was a really horrible call.
So we'll get to that, but just
Okay.
generally in terms of your relationship.
That's just like how our relationship kind of even started. That's why I brought it up. That's how we became like texting each other and kind of more than just like, you're just my coworker and I never talk to you, to we've had conversations and talked about personal things.
Did you think well of him?
Yes,
And to your knowledge, did he think well of you?
I think so.
So now you mentioned a particular call.
Yes.
And just so we don't have to dwell all over it, it's a call that involves a murder, suicide, and the murder victim is a young baby, right?
Yes.
And when was that call?
It was in August of 2024.
Was that response just you and him?
I believe I was the first officer in with Officer Cuevas, and then Officer Noonan came. It was like pretty much when something like that comes over the radio, everybody starts heading there. The call was in my sector, so the sector I was assigned to that night. So I was the closest with Officer Cuevas. So we walked in together.
And just to encapsulate it, the call involved administering first aid. It was a difficult call.
I'm going to stop and answer a quick question here. Hey, Dr. Vonda. For those who don't know the case well, Kelsey was a police officer. She was engaged to Justin Alayan. He was a local firefighter, so he was not a police officer. The 3 officers who responded to serve the restraining order were her colleagues at the Andover Police Department. They were senior officers to her, but one of them had been on her hiring committee. One of them had been, she's talking about this awful call that they responded to. And she will talk about how that kind of changed her relationship with that officer. So the fiance was not one of the officers who was serving the restraining order, but the restraining order did give him custody of the baby. And as you'll hear as things go on, I'm wondering if you all would like me to speed this up. I have it at 1.25, but I'm wondering whether let me know in the chat whether 1.5 might, or if this is something you haven't heard before, if you want me to leave it where it is. So let me know. But the officers who were there with her were police officers who she knew and were her work colleagues. And they notified Justin Alain that they were serving the order and had him come to pick up the baby. So he shows up as this is happening. So and they're serving once they've served her with the restraining order and they're telling her that she needs to pack up things for the baby, the fiance shows up, which is, you'll hear, not all that typical. I'm going to speed this up to 1.5. If it's too fast, let me know.
And that's kind of the source of when you sort of broke the ice with Officer Noonan?
Yeah, we stood outside of the scene for a long time, all of us, everybody who was on that call, and we talked, and then the chief had asked us to, we were like out of commission for the night. Other officers came in and filled in for us, and we had like a meeting debrief in the chief's office. He had pizza delivered.
Okay. And just in general, fast forwarding all the way to June 30th of 25, did you ever have any problems or issues with Officer Noonan?
No.
Did he ever, to your knowledge, did he ever have any problems or issues with you?
No.
So there's Noonan. And then who's the third officer there?
Officer Houston.
And we saw him testify here as well today, yesterday, right?
Yes.
And what was your relationship with Officer Noonan?
Noonan or Houston?
I'm sorry, Houston, thank you.
I was closer with Houston, probably out of the three of the people that were at my house that day. Houston and I were friends. He came to my engagement party. He was invited to my wedding. We have the same type of dog. I think they've met before. The dogs, I mean. Yeah.
He's a work friend.
He was a work friend. Yeah.
So these three come to the door. What are the circumstances of how they come in the house? Did you let them in, or how did that happen?
I opened the door, and Lieutenant Daly immediately put his foot on my front porch, and we didn't just come in, and I was like, okay, all right.
I didn't hear that one.
When I opened the door, Lieutenant Daly put his foot into my porch, and they just said, we need to come in, and I said, okay.
And then did you turn around and you and Kay and walk back in the house and they followed you?
Yes.
So what happened when four of you, five of you, got into the living room area?
Lieutenant Daly asked me to put Kaden down in his car seat. They refer to it as like a rocker does rock, but it was his car seat. And I was in the middle of feeding him, so I put him down. He was obviously crying, and I was like, whatever this is, I'm going to hold my son. Because they had a folder. I knew they were going to give me something.
At that moment?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea what was going on?
No, obviously I knew something was going on. Police are in my house, my coworkers, but when they told me to put Kaden down, I was like a little hesitant because I'm in the middle of feeding him, and then I listened, I put him down, and he started crying, and I was like, no, I'm going to hold my son, whatever this is. Like, I'm going to feed my baby and read it. So I picked Kaden back up, and I had him on my lap while I opened the envelope, and that's when Lieutenant Daly said, Justin filed a restraining order against you.
So you're trying to read it, and he's talking to you, and the baby's crying?
Nope, baby isn't crying anymore. I picked him up, and I'm feeding him.
What did Daly say to you about the situation?
I asked a lot of questions, like why? I was supposed to meet him at the park like a couple hours ago. I'm confused. He said he didn't know anything, and I said, do you have the affidavit so I can read what I'm being accused of? And they didn't, and they said they didn't know the details. And he said that Kaden was on it as well. And
did that affect your state of mind?
Yes.
How so?
I knew in that moment I was going to have to hand my 4-month-old to a police officer to be brought out of my house.
How did that make you feel?
I don't know if there's a word. Sad.
Were you able to have a minute or two to kind of comprehend it, or did something else immediately happen?
I comprehended it. I was asked to pack a bag for Kaden for about 2 weeks.
Who asked you that?
Lieutenant Daly said that the court date was in 14 days. So we said, pack it up for 2 weeks. And
he said that to you?
Yes.
So you didn't take it upon yourself to want to do that?
No, they told me that I needed to pack a bag for Kaden because he was going to go be with Justin for at least 2 weeks till the next court date.
Who was there when that was when that came up?
That was when the three of them we were all in my living room.
Did Houston or Noonan say anything at this point?
No, I knew if I put Caden back in his car seat, he was going to cry. He loves being held.
So the plan at that point was to go get some stuff.
Yes.
So you had to put Caden somewhere.
Yes.
And what did you do?
I handed Caden to Officer Noonan.
Why'd you give him an officer?
I could say I trusted all of them. But I knew Officer Noonan I know Officer Houston has no kids, and I knew Daly seemed like preoccupied, and I knew Noonan had kids. So I guess that's probably what went through my mind, but it really wasn't that much of a thought. I just knew I had to have someone hold him because I didn't want him screaming in his car seat on the ground.
Was it someone that you trusted to do that?
Yes.
What happened when you handed your baby to Officer Noonan?
He took Caden from my arms.
And what about the bottle? What happened with the bottle?
He took the bottle as well.
And what did he do with respect to the bottle and Caden?
He was trying to feed him.
Did Officer Noonan exhibit any resistance or discomfort or anything with respect to holding the baby?
No, I think he said like, "Oh, I haven't done this in a while," like something like that.
What was your intention at that point to do?
I had to pack his bags.
And are you, as you're starting to go figure that out in terms of luggage, what do you need, where's he going, etc., are you having kind of an unfolding thought process, if you will? I'm just asking her what she's thinking. I mean, what are you thinking?
So I grabbed one of my duffel bags, and I first went in the kitchen, and as I was putting the bottles in the bag, it was just kind of like all setting in exactly what was happening, and there was just so many unknowns. And as I was packing things, I was like, Justin just broke up with me via restraining order. We have a wedding in 4 months. Caden is not going to be with me for 2 weeks. That's an eternity for a mom, any mom. And everyone was just brushing over the fact that it was 2 weeks. And I was like, 2 weeks without Caden? Like, and I just kept, in my mind was just going fast. Like, I can't work overtime because I have a son now. I can't afford my home by myself without overtime. It was just, I lost everything. Even my doggy was on the restraining order. Maverick, my dog Maverick, was on the restraining order. So my
Was
son,
it your dog or Justin's dog?
he was my dog. So I saw my baby go, my fiance, my dog, my house, and I knew that was going to be my job too. Because whatever I was accused of wasn't good if at restraining order.
And you didn't have the affidavit?
No.
Where did you go after you went to the kitchen with the duffel bag and the bottles?
I went all around the house because his diapers were in one room on shelves. His bottles and formula were in the kitchen. His toys were in the living room, and his books and stuff were upstairs with his clothes.
Tell us what you did on the first floor before you got upstairs. What was the packing there?
On the first floor was bottles and formula, and he was just getting introduced to like purees, and I had just ordered purees from Target, so I packed all those too. Then I went into I went into, it was like our exercise room. It had shelving on the wall, and there was just like a ton of boxes of diapers. I just put those aside and was like, 2 weeks, a lot of diapers, so take the boxes. And then I went upstairs.
All right, before you got upstairs, part of the order was that you had to give up your firearms, right?
Yes.
Did you say anything to the officers about the location of your firearms?
Yes, I did.
What did you say?
I told them that they were in the basement.
Was that true?
No,
Why did you tell them that?
because I didn't want them to take them away,
Why not?
because I wanted to be alone with my firearm and take my life.
When did you make that decision?
I made that decision as I realized I had just lost everything in a 15-second conversation with my coworker.
Where were your firearms?
They were upstairs in a green safe
In your bedroom?
in my bedroom.
So you went upstairs, you mentioned?
Yes.
What was your state of mind at that point, whether or not Justin was coming over or not?
I didn't think Justin was coming over. I knew that Kaden was going to Justin, but I would never think Justin was coming over.
Why not?
That's just not like normal practice to put a plaintiff and defendant in the same room intentionally. Usually you're doing the opposite as police officers. So I didn't think Justin was in the house.
The opposite being what? What's the opposite of what they did here?
They let Justin in my house.
So what's the normal procedure?
Normal procedure is to separate people. It's like the first thing you do on any call where there's any sort of argument, separate.
Now, you've served restraining orders, you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Is there a provision in those orders for accessing property?
So this is important because for those of you who haven't been following the trial, Officer Noonan, who is the person who shot Kelsey, claimed in his testimony that he never let her out of his sight because he was afraid that she was going to, and he said that he believed when she pulled her weapon, she was going to force her way past him and go downstairs and shoot Justin. And that was their theory of the case, that she was going to either shoot him or force her way past him to get downstairs to shoot Justin. So remember that, because what she's testifying to is important.
I don't know about specific provisions. I can tell you like what I've done before on a call where there was a restraining order involved. I don't know if it's a provision or not, though.
Okay, we'll move on from there.
Okay.
So you were going to go upstairs,
Yes.
and you had made that awful decision already?
Yes.
What was your state of mind about whether or not you wanted to involve any police officers in that?
I didn't want to involve anybody. I was trying to get everybody away from me.
Why didn't you want to involve any police officers in that? These police officers in particular?
I wanted to be alone so I could kill myself. I decided that I was going to take my own life. I didn't want to involve anybody else in that. I'll just.
Did you go upstairs back and forth a couple times, or did you just go up there once?
I think I went up I think I went up at least twice. The second time I went up, I was up there for a while.
Do you remember who accompanied you on each of these trips?
It was Officer Houston and Officer Noonan.
Was that the first time or the second time?
That was the second time.
And was there a visit upstairs before that? Houston and Noonan visit?
Yeah, I was trying to hand them things so they would go away.
Where did that happen?
That happened upstairs. So I was first in the room. You walk up, there's a landing. The room on the left is Caden's room. I went in there first and I put books in a car seat because Justin's truck didn't have the car seat.
It's also really important to understand that this house is tiny. This house is very small. It's an older style home. And when you go up the stairs, there's a very narrow, we saw the photos of it, but if you haven't been watching the trial, let me take a minute. When you go up the stairs, there is a very narrow stairway. It is not carpeted, it's wooden stairs. When you come to the top of the stairs, there is a very small landing. If you go left, you go into what was the baby's room, and it had sort of like a glass, like a French door on it, with little window panes. And then if you went right, you went into Kelsey's room, Kelsey and Justin's room. It actually was the smaller of the two rooms. And it didn't have a door on it. And so that's important to know in the logistics of all of this. So Let's keep going.
And I handed it, I don't even know who I handed it to one of them. And I said, can you bring this downstairs? And
What was the, what happened after you said that?
somebody brought it downstairs and then they came back up.
So you struck out in terms of what you testified to earlier.
Yeah, I just kept trying to hand them things to make them go away.
Meaning, what do you mean make them go away? Be more specific if you can.
Like,
What was the plan?
I knew if I pulled out my firearm in front of a police officer, I would get shot. That was not my intention, and that's not what I did. I was trying to get them away from me, so that didn't happen. So they weren't put in that position because I'm not dumb. I was a police officer. If someone takes out a gun in front of you, yes, that's a threat. Yes, that's somebody that you probably feel threatened from.
So, but if you want to kill yourself, why not just let it happen that way?
That's selfish. I would never do that.
I think I found this testimony to be very sincere. She was a police officer. She had been on difficult calls, and what I drew from it was that she would never put a fellow police officer in that position. I think this is an important testimony because what she's saying is, I would never put my fellow police officer in the position of having to shoot me. This to me was very bolstering of her credibility. That made sense to me that these were her colleagues, people who she knew and worked with every day. She understood how traumatizing that could be for someone, and she was not interested in putting one of her fellow officers in that position. I think that is very persuasive for the finder of fact to look at that and say, if I'm trying to figure out who's telling the truth and what their motivations were, and we're going to go over what it is that the judge has to consider. I think that it's very telling that she was not interested in putting her fellow officers in that position.
Even looking back now, like reflecting for 9 months, I think my decision to do it to myself was selfish to everybody who loves me. So I'll just leave it at that. I wanted to kill myself, me and my gun, no one else involved.
How many different times did you try to have the officers transport some stuff downstairs?
Several.
At some point, did Officer Houston leave the second floor?
Yes.
And that left who up there?
Officer Noonan.
So upstairs it was Officer Noonan and yourself.
Yes.
At some point, did you go across that landing to the other room?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was on the floor packing more clothes in the duffel bag.
In which room?
My bedroom.
Okay,
We walk up
hold on.
the stairs to the right.
Okay, so you finish up in the other room and you go to your room.
Yes.
All right. Tell us the circumstances of where do you go, where does Noonan go when you go into your bedroom?
So nobody came into my bedroom with me. I was asked, I can't even say who exactly, like I don't know if Officer Houston had come back up at the time, but somebody asked me, who is that downstairs? And I said, I have no idea. And
Let me ask you a little bit about that. What was your state of mind about you being asked that? What were you thinking about?
I was like, I don't know.
Did you hear anybody come in?
No, but they did. Because they were on the landing, they would be able to. I was like more into my bedroom than them. So I was like, I have no idea who's here. Shouldn't you guys know?
That's an important comment. Shouldn't you guys know? Yeah.
What happened next?
Officer Houston walked down the stairs first. Officer Noonan followed him down several steps.
So there was some sort of commotion going on downstairs. Kelsey's mother had come back. She was downstairs. um, we had already seen in the prosecution's case that Justin showed up with his sister, and there were people down there talking. Kelsey's mother was upset and was talking very spiritedly. Um, eh, it appears that they went downstairs to figure out what the what the disturbance was downstairs.
Did that give you a chance to do anything?
That was, I knew, my only chance to be alone with my firearm.
Show you Exhibit 51. What's shown in Exhibit 51?
Okay,
That's
now
my
we're going to
bedroom.
get a
That's
photograph.
the room on the top of the landing to the right.
Where's the photographer standing in this picture?
He's standing in the doorway.
When you went to go get that firearm, was there anyone in your view in that landing?
No.
Is this after you saw Noonan depart?
Yes, his back was turned towards me. He was following Officer Houston downstairs.
Did he stay that way, or did he disappear from that scene?
Well, he must have turned around at some point and walked back up the stairs because
You know how when you're near somebody that's going up and downstairs, you can hear going up and downstairs. Did you hear any particular number of
no,
steps?
I'm certain I heard him and saw him walk down several steps.
And how did that affect your state of mind at that very instant?
I knew that was my moment.
To do what?
Kill myself.
What did you do?
So that shoebox was not on top of the green safe.
At the time you were doing this?
At the time, yeah, there was nothing on top of the safe.
All right. And you're referring, for the record, there's a orange lined box in the picture?
Yeah, it looks like
Is that what you're talking about?
it looks like a shoebox. Yeah, yes.
Mr. Mayor, can you just give me a moment to catch up?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so now we're going to get a look at this, at what she's talking about. They've kind of zoomed in on it. They're going to zoom back out. This area, I don't know whether you can see my cursor or not, but this area right here is actually the door jamb. This is the edge of the door. So she's kind of ducked around behind. This is like a foot locker. It's a locking, like, foot locker. And when the prosecution presented this, they talked about the fact that this box was sitting here. I'm not, it looks like a shoebox. And they made it seem as if she had pulled the gun out of this shoebox. Now, what she testifies to is that this shoebox wasn't there. She also testifies that the chair that's sitting right behind her had been moved. It actually was facing out, so with the back of it against the wall. And remember, this is a very small room. I think they talked about the dimensions being 14 by 15 or so. I mean, if you look at this room, it's really barely big enough to have a bed in it, a queen size bed, I would think. So they're going to zoom back out, but her testimony is that it's actually in this green locker, foot locker, that she opens up, and that's where the firearm is.
I'm sorry, did you say that that box was not on the, what did you say about that box?
That box was not there. The top of that chest, I'm calling it a safe. It's a chest that locks. That's where I kept my firearms. The top of it, nothing was on it. So whatever was placed there after, that was not there before.
Thank you.
Ready to go, John?
Yes.
What about the chair? Is that how the chair was?
The chair was turned the other way because that was the chair I had rocked in. That was not facing that way. The back of the chair was up against the wall, I guess.
So it's kind of like as you'd expect it to be in the room.
Yeah, I would need to pivot like this to be right. So it was probably moved. My room is small.
And to get at your guns in there, you kind of have to flip up the top of that chest?
Yes.
Where was your focus in terms of the firearm, the chest, whether Noonan's coming back? Where are you focused?
I was just like, hurry up before somebody comes back.
And what did you do?
I grabbed the gun out of the chest. I put it up to my chest here.
So what was going on with you putting it up to your chest? What was that all about? What do you mean when you say you put it up to?
Like, I
you
just-
made a motion to your stomach area, right?
Yeah, like I just grabbed it quickly. I bent over, grabbed it, put it here, took 2 steps backwards. And I don't want to make the motion of what I did because it's
Which
just
is what you
horrible. But I put the gun up to my head,
Which hand? did
my
you-
right hand,
and where on your head did you put it? Can you just describe it?
my temple.
Was Noonan in the door frame by now?
Not yet. He had just walked in, like when I pulled the trigger on myself, with the gun pointing towards my head.
What happened when you pulled the trigger?
He said, "Kelsey, no. Kelsey, no." I pulled the trigger. And I'm sorry, but I said, "Fuck."
What happened next?
I got shot.
How long after you said that did you get shot?
I don't even think I got to the K in the word before I was shot.
What would that feel like?
What part?
Getting shot in the chest.
Hurt.
Did the force of that bullet knock you in any particular direction?
It knocked me backwards.
Do you recall what happened with your firearm?
I got moved. It was
Well,
on.
before I'm sorry,
okay.
I got a question. I'll ask you a better question.
Okay.
Right at that point, as you're shot and you're flying back or falling back, or whatever you want to call it, can you remember what happened with your firearm?
It fell out of my hands. It was to my head and it fell out of my hand. And I fell on the ground and the firearm fell on the ground.
A couple of questions before we move on. At any point when you were doing that, when you had the firearm up to your head, was Noonan present during the time you raised the firearm to your head?
Like when I motioned up to my head with it,
Correct.
no, he was not in the room. Nobody was in the room.
When Noonan came into your view, where was the gun pointed?
The gun was pointed at my temple.
At any point, did you move the muzzle of that gun
No,
towards Noonan?
no, never.
Did you move it anywhere?
No, never,
Did you ever intend to harm Noonan?
never.
What did you know about Noonan's kind of personal circumstances in your time getting to know him?
He was like, I mean, so he was a cop for a long time and I was considered like a rookie. And like after I had like a few really bad calls in a row and everybody kind of knew it. And the senior guys would like check in on me, give me advice. And he was one of those people. And he told me his own personal experience with like calls and how to handle them when they're bad.
So what was his family situation?
I've met his wife. I knew he had a son just by like talking.
Did you want to involve him in your tragedy?
I didn't want to involve anybody. I wanted to take my own life. I never pointed the gun at a fellow police officer. It never happened.
When you went onto the ground, what did Noonan do after he shot you?
I thought he walked away and Lieutenant Daly came over to me and then I think Noonan walked back over to me and like I couldn't say anything really, but I couldn't breathe. And I think I was just like, why did you do that? I'm like, it hurts. And then I just wasn't even. I said, why? Like, why? And he was holding my hand. Officer Noonan was holding my hand. And I said, why? I was so confused. Why?
Where was Daly?
Daly was there.
What was he doing?
He was on the radio. I don't know what he said exactly on the radio. I'm assuming like.
So you get shot and you get shot in the chest, right?
Yeah.
The lower chest. Well, after being shot, what was your, how did that affect your ability to sound like a lawyer, but how did that affect your ability to perceive things, recollect things?
I went into like a huge adrenaline shock. It didn't feel like normal pain. It almost felt like absent pain, but it felt like my entire body was burning, and I was completely alert, completely awake the whole time. I was speaking as much as I could. My lung was punctured, so that's why I was having trouble breathing. But other than that, I was very alert and aware of my surroundings.
Where were you laying in the room?
I was laying between my bed and the wall where the air conditioner is.
Were your legs parallel to the foot of the bed or somewhere else?
I think so. Yeah, I think that they were.
Were you bleeding?
Yes.
Is that the way you wanted this to happen?
No.
What do you remember next?
The fire department got there fast. It felt really fast. They put me in like a bag,
Sack.
and like they were all tall guys, and I knew that my ceiling, you bump your head if you're over like 5'10". So when they were carrying me down, I said, "Watch your heads." And they brought me outside, and I think when I was still in my house, one of the firefighters was trying to put oxygen on my face, and I was taking it off and just saying, "I want to die."
Did you make any apologies at any
Sorry,
point?
I don't know what happened there.
I think I said, "I'm sorry. I tried to kill myself. I want to die." Like I just didn't understand what just like I don't know what just happened. I tried to shoot myself, and then I got shot in the chest. Like nothing really made, like I was just in total disbelief and shock.
Did you, at any point before you got taken out of there, did you hear Noonan saying anything about what happened?
No.
Did you see Houston yet?
Houston, yes. He came in, and I think he put like medical like gauze on the wound. Somebody did. He had the medical bag. I remember that.
Were you able to sort of perceive the first aid techniques they were administering to you?
No, I wasn't paying attention to it. I was like trying to focus on breathing because it felt like I was choking. It felt like I was drowning.
So they bring you downstairs, and at what point in the trip downstairs and out of the house were you trying to take off the mask?
I think the whole time. And when I was in the ambulance, I said to everybody, "I'm a fucking idiot. I just tried to kill myself with an unloaded gun. I'm a fucking idiot."
And then
I said that to everybody. I said that to the hospital staff. I said that to all the firefighters. I probably said that when I was laying on the ground. Those were the words I just kept repeating.
what were they doing to you in the ambulance before the ambulance departed in terms of working on you?
They were working on getting a med flight. I had to get a blood transfusion. I finally agreed to keep the oxygen mask on my face, and they were doing my vitals and just trying to keep me stable before I was going to be transported to the hospital.
What hospital did you go to?
I was flown by med flight to Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston.
So by helicopter?
Yes.
And then when you were in the helicopter, was there anybody that you knew in the helicopter?
No, when I was in the ambulance, I was holding on to firefighter Smirtoni's hand.
And can you spell that for the court? It's a funny spelling. Would you spell that? If you can.
I don't. His first name's Kevin.
And is it, let me take a crack at that. Is it Smiertelny?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And did he go in the helicopter?
I want to remind you that Justin was a Andover firefighter, and it was his colleagues who responded to Kelsey to this incident. So I mean, this isn't from all accounts, it's not a large town. A lot of people know each other, and we heard quite a bit about local police officers who grew up in North Andover and who went to school there and who became police officers. So it's a small, close-knit community. And so these were actually her fiance's colleagues who were assisting her at that point.
No, he was holding my hand the whole time I was in the ambulance and comforting me And I asked if he could go in the helicopter. I didn't want to let go of his hand. I asked, can you come in the helicopter with me? And he said, I can't, no one can.
Okay. So you get in the helicopter, you're getting transported to Mass General, is it?
Yes.
Now, was there another problem with the oxygen in the helicopter?
I either like ran out or it shut off. And when you're in a med flight, you're laying down and there's a person flying the helicopter next to you. And I just like tapped him and like gestured. I felt like I was drowning again. Felt like I was choking on, I couldn't get a breath. So I just like told him, like I couldn't talk, but I gestured like to the oxygen that was above me. It wasn't working. I think they had switched the tank or something or turned it back on. Something happened, but my oxygen got shut off in the helicopter and they had to fix it.
Was that indicative of maybe some kind of a change of heart about whether you wanted to die?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to say in those exact moments because it took a lot of healing from the moment I decided to make a suicide attempt to now to be healed mentally. So I don't know what my exact thoughts were in that moment, but I know when I got to the hospital, I said, I'm a fucking idiot. I tried to kill myself with an unloaded gun. How could I be so stupid?
What,
So I'm going to stop there. There is more because there is cross-examination. I will say that I thought that the cross-examination was fairly ineffective, and I didn't feel like the Commonwealth attorney who did the cross-examination, he was the lead examiner. First of all, if they had been in front of a jury, they may have made some different tactical decisions. But because they were in front of a judge, there was less of that sort of tactical positioning. So I think if they had been in front of a jury, they very likely would have had one of the women on the team, cross-examine her. I didn't feel like his cross-examination was particularly effective. And he certainly didn't ever really get to the point where he tripped her up. But I want to move on because I I I wanted you all to see that because now I want to move on to what it is the judge needs to consider when the judge is deliberating. So what happened today, Kelsey was the last witness. The defense rested. The prosecution said we don't have any rebuttal witnesses. And the judge then went through a document that he had prepared, which is essentially the jury instructions. And he put that before both attorneys. We didn't see it, but he presented it to both attorneys, and both attorneys agreed that those were the parameters that he would be using to make the determination about the case, and as he deliberated. This judge is very thoughtful, and so he said, we're going to come back. I'm going to encourage each of you to give about a 30-minute closing statement, a closing argument, and then I'm going to deliberate. We're going to come back at 2 o'clock and decide at that point whether I have made a decision or whether you'll come back on Friday morning. So that was where they're at. I think this judge is going to be very deliberate in his deliberations, and I think that he is definitely going to outline his thought process. This is not something we get to see with a jury, so I think it's really interesting that we're going to be able to see this judge's thought process as well as understand what this judge is going to have to consider. So I I wanted to take a look at my goodness here. My slides are in the wrong order. So let me just um, pull that out for a second and get back to the slide that I wanted. So I wanted to talk about what the charges are. Initially, she was charged with attempted murder, and that was presented to the grand jury. And the grand jury said would not return a true bill on the attempted murder count. So, what she was charged with was assault with a dangerous weapon. And it's kind of an interesting charge because it's interesting the way the charge is written, the law is written, because what it says is there are two theories under which an assault with a dangerous weapon can be proven. So the assault with a dangerous weapon is a little bit odd because it really is an attempt. Because if you actually assault someone with a dangerous or deadly weapon, you probably kill them. So, although it's assault, it's really an attempt. Um, and that'll become more clear as we go along. So, the two theories are as an attempted battery or as an immediately threatened battery. And we'll go through and define those things. So, to prove under the attempted battery theory, the first theory, the state has to prove. Now, remember, every one of these elements has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, you saw Kelsey's direct testimony, had an opportunity to assess her credibility. So, the judge must determine whether Kelsey intended. So, every crime, the first thing is every crime has a mental state. And most of the time, it's knowingly or intentionally. So, for Kelsey, the judge had to determine beyond a reasonable doubt whether Kelsey intended to offensively touch Noonan in a way that was intended to be offensive or to cause him bodily harm by use of a dangerous weapon. Intending to do that, to cause him bodily harm by use of a dangerous weapon, and that she attempted to do so. So here are the elements that not only, number one, that she intended to do it, but that she also took some sort of a covert step, when a lot of jurisdictions call that a substantial step. Some sort of overt, sorry, I said covert, overt step toward accomplishing her intent. In other words, Kelsey had to take some sort of demonstrable action toward committing this battery. Now, Noonan didn't need to have been placed in fear of the attempt or really even be aware of it, but there had to be some indication that it was intentional, that she intended to do it. Third, that Kelsey came reasonably close to committing the act. Remember that. And that Kelsey attempted the act with a dangerous weapon. Now, in both theories, there's no question that her service weapon was a dangerous weapon. There was no discussion about that. Now, there are a lot of other cases and instances where the question is this a dangerous weapon? If someone takes your head and pounds it against the floor could be a dangerous weapon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a weapon that is designed to inflict injury. But in this case, her service weapon certainly is. So the second theory um, is assault by means of a dangerous weapon i- as an immediately threatened battery. So this is a little bit different because, and this is probably more likely the theory, when the prosecution charged the case, they charged both theories. And the judge clarified for them that they were actually presenting under both theories. Okay. However, this is probably more likely the theory that makes the most sense. So to prove that theory, remember, they have to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt. So they have to prove Kelsey intended. So remember, that means she had as her purpose or objective. She intended, and it was her purpose or objective, to put Noonan in fear of an immediate battery. And a battery is defined as a touch that's offensive or likely to cause bodily harm. So she had to put him, intended to put him in fear of an immediate battery. Okay. The second piece is that she engaged in some conduct toward Noonan that he reasonably perceived as immediately threatening a battery. That's important. So, was her conduct, her sole conduct toward Noonan, such that he reasonably perceived and immediately threatening a battery? So that's really important because the judge has to assess what evidence there is that Kelsey engaged in conduct that Noonan reasonably perceived as dangerous. Okay. Now, we have talked a great deal about reasonableness being a standard in the law. The reasonable person, would a reasonable person in that same circumstance have perceived that? So the judge is going to have to take a long look at the evidence and say, what evidence is there that Kelsey engaged in conduct that she intended and that Noonan reasonably perceived as dangerous? What conduct did she engage in? And then whether the threat was committed with a dangerous weapon, which it was. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Massachusetts standard and what is in the standard jury instruction. So the standard jury instruction says a person's intent is their purpose or objective. This requires the trier of fact to make a decision about the defendant's state of mind at the time. That's why Kelsey's testimony about what her state of mind was at the time is so important. The trier of fact can consider any evidence about the actions or words of the defendant and all of the surrounding circumstances to help decide whether the defendant intended to commit a battery. Now, to prove that the defendant engaged in some conduct toward the victim, Noonan, that he reasonably perceived as immediately threatening a battery. So to prove this element, the Commonwealth must prove that Kelsey engaged in some conduct toward Noonan, which Noonan reasonably perceived as immediately threatening a battery. It requires the trier of fact to consider about what Noonan perceived and also whether that perception was reasonable. That is really the heart of what this judge is going to be deciding. Whether or not. So, key to this is what was her intention and her state of mind. Now, what she says her intention was had nothing at all to do with Officer Noonan. And so it is important to remember that her testimony is that her intentions were never directed at Noonan. So if the judge finds beyond a reasonable doubt that Kelsey's intentions were never directed toward Officer Noonan, and the next step would be, well, did she engage in conduct toward Noonan that he could reasonably have perceived as immediately threatening a battery or immediately threatening him? The judge is going to have to weigh all those pieces, but remember, every one of them has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So if the judge says it is possible that when Noonan came up the stairs, Kelsey's intent was to take her own life, but Noonan perceived that as a threat, the judge still has to ask, do I believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Noonan was reasonable in perceiving that immediate threat? See where I'm going? I hope that you can see that the judge has this framework. He has been laser focused on exactly what happened in that room between Noonan and Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And he has repeatedly declined to deal with all of the other stuff that happened. Now, for those of you who've been following the case for a long time, Justin claimed that Kelsey had been physically abusive to him while they were on this Jack and Jill bachelorette party. Kelsey's contention, and she has filed affidavits in the family law case contending that it was actually the opposite. Justin was using drugs, drinking heavily. She did not want to be part of it, and that they disagreed about that piece of it, and she actually left early because of that. That is a he said, she said bone of contention in the family law case. So one of the things that happened recently was Kelsey was able to move into her own townhome. She was able to be relieved from some of the pretrial monitoring. There are hearings set for next week and the week after in her family law case. And there will be a determination about temporary custody coming up within the next week or two. I really believe that if she is found not guilty, that is going to weigh very heavily in her favor, along with her own testimony and the testimony of others who were there about what was going on with Justin. Now, what Kelsey claims is that she has, within the few months before this incident happened, within 2 or 3 months, she has over 250 video clips because her house was wired of Justin using drugs and using alcohol. She has text messages in which he admits that he would go to work at the fire station and he would drink the cooking wine because he was having withdrawals from alcohol. So there are certainly two sides to every story when it comes to the Kelsey and Justin piece. But this judge was very careful to only take a look at what happened in Kelsey's home between she and Noonan when Kelsey was shot. The Commonwealth claims that she was shot because she raised a gun and fired it at Noonan. So I guess you have to ask yourself who's more believable, and more importantly, who has more of a reason to lie? Um, who's got more of a reason to lie? Noonan has a career, and firing your service gun at, at another police officer who's in a mental health crisis is a career ender. And what didn't come out at trial is that Noonan has now has been taken off duty, but he's gotten a few little perks that are not strictly to um, according to policy. When the shooting happened, Noonan was not taken to he was taken to the hospital, but he was not drug tested, even though it is Andover Police Department policy that anytime there is an officer involved shooting, that officer is immediately drug tested. So that wasn't done. He was placed on administrative leave, but he's allowed to do detail work that he gets paid overtime for. So he's still getting the perks of being on duty, even though he's on administrative leave. Justin, her fiance, Justin Alayan, has also been put on administrative leave, very likely because of all of the allegations about his abuse of drugs and alcohol. Now, marijuana, which is apparently his drug of choice, is legal in Massachusetts, but that does not make it permissible for you to use if you are a firefighter. So there's a lot, there are a lot of other people for whom there's a lot riding on this. There's a lot riding on it for Justin and his career, as well as Noonan and his career. There's also been a lot of discussion about Justin's mother and the fact that she has very much been the um, sort of stirring up emotions and stirring the pot. And a lot of speculation that it is much more Justin's mother who wants the baby than it is Justin. So we're going to see all of that play out in the family case, which is going to come up in the next couple of weeks. If Kelsey is found not guilty, that is really going to improve her position, of course, in the family case. Unlike a criminal case, family cases are not open to be live streamed, and they're not necessarily open to the public. Now, can a person who is interested walk into the courtroom? Very likely. It certainly was that way in my experience in my jurisdiction. If I was involved in a case involving a restraining order, there was nothing to keep people from the public, family members, those sorts of people from attending. I don't know what the family court judge is going to do because, of course, this is a very high profile case and a lot of people who have a great deal of interest in what's happening. So we don't know at this point whether the public is going to have access to those hearings or not. But her criminal attorney, an attorney from his firm, is also representing her in the family law case. So she's got really good legal support. When she was finished with her cross-examination and her attorney reported that they were going to rest and the judge sort of adjourned, her attorney leaned over and said, "I'm so proud of you." She did a really good job at her cross-examination and her direct and cross-examination. We don't often see defendants testify, so this has been a really unique case in a number of ways. We don't always see trials in front of judges, and we really don't get to understand the thought process of the finder of fact. I think this judge he's already said that he's going to make findings on the record. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually even does them in writing. So it's going to be, we're going to have a really unusual window on the decision-making process for the finder of fact. Now, I think it was a very smart move on their part. to have the judge make the decision rather than a jury, because the judge is experienced, he understands the law and understands how to sort of sort out and disregard some of that extraneous stuff. And from the very beginning of this trial, this judge said repeatedly, I am only interested on this, what happened that afternoon or that evening in that room between those two people. I am not interested in what happened downstairs with Justin Alain and with Kelsey's mother, and I'm not interested in the family law case. I'm not interested in what happened the weekend before at the bachelorette party. I really am only focusing on all of that. Um, so I am looking forward, um, to seeing closing arguments tomorrow morning, and then, looking forward also to hearing the judge give his verdict, which he said he was going to do in open court, as well as the reasoning behind the verdict. Um, from my standpoint, now remember, I'm a defense attorney, and that's where my bias is. But from my standpoint, I do not believe that the Commonwealth has proven their case. I do not believe that they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Kelsey pulled her firearm, pointed it at Officer Noonan, and pulled the trigger and on an empty chamber. Um, and I think it is much more that Kelsey's story is much more likely, and that if there is that doubt, then the finder of fact has to find her not guilty. And I think this is going to be a not guilty verdict, because I think that the Commonwealth didn't prove their case. So we'll we'll all know how good my crystal ball is tomorrow or possibly Friday morning. So the judge said he was going to hear closing arguments. He was going to then deliberate. They were going to come back in the afternoon, and he was going to let them know whether he reached a decision or whether it would be he wanted to think about it overnight. So um, Dr. Vonda Kay, thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. We don't really solicit super chats, but we love you for sending them that way, sending that our way. So thank you so much. You never have to send us a super chat to ask a question, and we don't really solicit them at this point. But thank you. We do appreciate them when you think enough of what we're doing, to send a little treat our way. So I'm ready to take some questions. We're at the 2-hour mark, but we spent a lot of time watching Kelsey's testimony, so I'm not in a really big hurry to wrap up. As long as Jen is okay to stay with me, we'll move on. So I'm going to give Jen just a little bit of a minute to line up questions. In the meantime, I'm going to remind you, please, if you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it definitely helps the internet find us. And please give us a thumbs up. Um, in general, we go live on Wednesday evenings. Occasionally, we go live if there's big breaking news. I know last week I talked with all of you about the possibility of streaming this trial. Um, it's not something we usually do, but it's I was interested in doing it. But you all know, thanks to all my little pink ribbons over here, if I can point the right direction, that I have been sort of caught up in a lot of appointments and getting prepared to undertake my breast cancer treatment. So I hesitated to do it because I knew that I had some appointments that were going to require that I chop up the coverage, and when I looked around and saw the number of law tubers who were covering it, Melanie Little was covering it, Defense Diaries was streaming it. There were plenty of lawyers who were um, who were streaming it. But I really would love, I see a question there, will you come on for the verdict? I really would love to come back on and chat with you about it once there's a verdict. And as long as Jen's available, I think we probably will try and do that. A little bit of it is going to depend on the timing because of other appointments that I've got going on, but I think it will work out okay. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. So do look for that. If you're interested in my reaction to the verdict, look for that and hit the notifications so you'll get notified if we're going to go live. So, what kind of questions do y'all have for me? Marissa, this is a great question. If Kelsey is found not guilty, can she get her baby and her job back? So I think it's likely that if she wanted to, she could return to the Andover Police Department as long as she is medically cleared to do so. Um, whether she does that or not, I think that would be really tough. Um, considering all of these circumstances and considering that she has just had a trial in which she has essentially called a, a fellow officer a liar and called that person's honesty and their integrity into question, I guess that's a little worrisome. I don't know how she's going to be received if she were to go back to the Andover Police Department. Um, I have hope that she's going to go back to law school. I have hope that this experience for her has been one of those experiences that crystallizes your calling in life. And so she's already got a year and a half worth of law school. Another year and a half, and she could be studying for the bar. So I think that's a possibility as well. Whether she gets the baby back is a little trickier. And one of the tricky parts of it is that when you're dealing with a, a family law question, a custody question, the first question that you have to ask is what's in the best interest of this child. And courts often um, don't like pulling a child out of some place where they are established and connected and rooted. Now, it's a little bit different because this child is still pretty young. Um, but that puts a tricky layer on it because a judge could say, I'm a little hesitant to disrupt what seems to be working for this child. Um, so we don't know. There's so many moving parts to this. Does dad really have a drug and alcohol problem? Is that a factor in what a responsible parent he can be? If she's found not guilty, she's been exonerated. Does that make her the more fit parent? And where in all of that analysis do we consider the fact that he's been in the custody of dad for the last year? So those are there's many more variables in a family law case than there are in a lot of other cases and a lot of other kinds of cases. Because a judge is considering each one of those factors, and then the judge really decides what weight to put on that. Because the judge in the family law case is the finder of fact. So I am hopeful that what is going to come out of this, if it's not full custody to Kelsey, that it is at least some sort of shared custody. And clearly, if she's found not guilty, there will absolutely be no reason why she is not allowed to have contact with her child. So that's a great question. It is heartbreaking that this baby was taken away from her at age 4 months, and she has not seen him. She has had no contact with him, not video visits, not phone calls, not nothing. She's had no contact with him since she was shot a year ago. So it's tough, really tough to understand. So, what else you got for me? Oh, goo- uh, uh, Googie? Googie, I think is the way you pronounce it. Um, why the dog, her dog? Why would the judge order that? I don't know. I don't know. It was, I mean, let's be frank, it was a shitty thing to do. Um, to take everything away from her. And I don't know. It made no sense. But what I will tell you is that while we think of our fur partners as our fuzzy kids and our fur babies and members of our families, the law says that they're property, that they're like your car, like your couch, they're property. And I mean, certainly a judge, if you go to a judge and say, "Judge is my companion animal," a judge is going to have some compassion for that. Why this judge gave him a restraining order that not only gave him the baby but also the dog, I don't know. I mean, I think he went in there and made some pretty outrageous allegations, and he had this judge convinced that every living thing in the house was at risk, and that she was a danger to every living thing in the house. So I think that may be why the judge did that. But you can certainly see that that was just that was sort of like the final straw for Kelsey. Oh, hi, Tiff. What happened at the engagement party? Well, there are quite a few different stories about what happened at the engagement party. According to Justin, Kelsey was drinking and she was angry at him and she got physically abusive with him. If you read the affidavits that Kelsey filed in the family court case, she alleges that the opposite was true, that he was drinking heavily, he was using drugs, and when she said, "I'm tired, I've had enough, I'm done," he wanted to keep partying, and that it was he who was threatening toward her, and that it was she who left the party. And so there is a dispute about what happened at the engagement party, but it is very clear that they had an angry confrontation and that they left the party separately, and that Justin then didn't come home. The restraining order was later in the week, and Justin didn't come home. And so she reached out to him. That's what sort of is the context for some of the text messages and the conversations. She was saying to him, "We have a wedding in 4 months. We have a baby together. Are we working this out, or what's the deal?" And they were texting back and forth, and there was no real sort of decision about any of that. She was trying to say to him, "Hey, we need to figure this out. We need, I love you. I, I, I still want to move forward, but we need to come to some sort of a meeting of the minds. And as she said, he broke up with her by restraining order. He basically ghosted her. So that day, she was supposed to go into the police department and get her uh, refresher in CPR. So she kept reaching out to him and saying, "Will you come home and take care of the baby so I can go to work?" And he wouldn't answer her. And then he said, "Well, I'll come by and pick up the baby." And she finally took. He wouldn't give her an answer, and so she finally took the baby to work to the class with her. And then she was exchanging texts and phone calls with him, and her understanding was they were going to meet up at this park called the Common, um, and have a conversation about what was going to happen. She went there. He sent her there so that she was distracted while he went and got the restraining order. And then the order was served. So, um, I mean, she never had any more conversations with him. She had a phone call with him. He kind of hung up on her. And the next thing she knew, the police were coming through her door to serve the restraining order. So, yeah, they had a fight because everybody was drunk at the engagement party. Or it was actually a bachelorette party, Tiff. Yeah. This happened in June, and they were getting married in October. The wedding was supposed to be in October. Of course, it didn't happen. I don't even know if she was out of the hospital by then. I guess she was. Yeah. 53 days she was in the hospital. Had 5 surgeries to repair her chest, her ribs, her lung, her liver. Yeah. So, what else you got for me? Trisha the trucker, how are you? We have not heard from you in a while. I am so glad to hear from you. Let us know where you are. When Kelsey is found not guilty, at least I hope it's when and not if, she will the officer automatically be charged? At this point, he has not been charged, and I don't really think he's going to be charged. There's no indication at this point that he is going to be charged. Now, criminally charged is different than whether or not he is disqualified from his career. He could quite easily, as we saw with Michael Proctor, he could easily be found unfit for his duty. Although, I hate to say it, but they have a very strong union, and it is very possible that they could negotiate some sort of a early retirement, so that he could sort of get his pension and bow out gracefully. But I certainly think we heard a lot of testimony about his training, his background, that he was a SWAT officer, that he trained SWAT officers. So, I mean, it's really hard to believe that he reacted the way he did. And you can understand with all of that training and experience behind him that it was a major screw up. If the court believes that she was, in fact, trying to take her own life, um, then him shooting her is a major screw up. So, hi, Grizzly Bear Kelly D. Um, yes, absolutely. The question is, could she sue him civilly, especially if she is found not guilty? Absolutely. And in fact, there have been a couple of different law tubers who've weighed in on whether or not she has a civil rights violation suit against him, which would be different, a little bit different than suing him for damages and misleading law enforcement. But there could also I think also she could have a civil rights suit for a violation of civil rights. Yeah. So this is certainly not over. We know the family law case isn't over. And I think there are plenty more civil suits. I think we're going to see civil suits the way we're seeing them in Karen Reed's case. Yeah, good question. Yeah. What else you got? Could a window behind a witness stand be the safest place for a window to be? I would change that courtroom around. I saw this comment earlier. I will point out that I believe this courtroom is on an upper floor. It's not on the ground floor. But I agree that it may not be the best place to have a window right behind the witness stand. Yeah. um, and you can see as as the case goes along, the windows open, the windows close, the windows open, the windows close. So I don't know. You would think that it wouldn't be the smartest place to have a window, but you could see that it was open right behind her on the witness stand. Good questions. Can she sue him civilly if she's found guilty, or would that be a no? I think that it is more difficult. She could sue him civilly even if she was found guilty, because remember, OJ was found guilty, and OJ was found not guilty. Let me get my facts right. And people came back later and sued him for wrongful death. And the reason they were able to do that is because the legal standard's lower. So it's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's proof, a preponderance of the evidence, or the scale tips slightly in one direction or the other. So um, certainly, even if she were found guilty, she could sue civilly. I think it's a more difficult case to make if she's found guilty. I think it's harder to make the case, but she could do it. Good questions tonight, guys. C. Taylor, 5454. Did friends from the bachelorette party publicly take sides? Yeah, I think they did. And I think that that's evident in the family law case. I think that there's more of that's come out in the family case. But I mean, it was a very difficult situation. These are people who cared. Mostly, they were people who were in their wedding party, were at the bachelorette party, and so these were people who were their mutual friends, their friends and families. And you could see how that could just really start, dividing people right away. So yeah, I think more of that'll come out in the family case. Who pays for all the medical bills? Well, fortunately, she was a police officer with pretty good health insurance. And, she was a member of the union, and they have decent health coverage. And so they would have catastrophic coverage for such a horrible medical emergency. I think that initially, um, I just noticed I have an automatic light in my stairwell, and it gets triggered by my animals. And I notice that it's going on and off in the background, which means probably one of my cats is on the stairwell. um, yeah, I think she was very fortunate that she had good medical coverage, that she had good health insurance, because we know that not everybody does. And she certainly probably, I'm sure that those bills were in the millions. She's had 5 surgeries, 53 days, um, a life flight, um, in the ICU for days. So yeah, I'm sure it's a big bill. Hi, True Virgo. I heard in another chat, my daughter's a Virgo too. I heard in another chat that she had a miscarriage right after she was shot. Is that true? I have no information one way or the other, and it would be really, I think, cruel to speculate. Had not heard that, and I wouldn't even begin to go there. So, um, just because you are accused of a crime doesn't mean that you give up all of your privacy, and so I wouldn't even go there. Oh my goodness, Marie, or is it Marielle Bachman? Could she come at him for lying to get a restraining order? Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, sure. Uh, uh, People lie in court all the time, and getting a, a charge for perjury is difficult, and most prosecutors have much bigger fish to fry. So I don't see a prosecutor coming at him criminally for lying on the restraining order, but sure. And certainly a judge is going to weigh that when a judge is considering who gets custody and the credibility of the people who are testifying. So if Justin testifies, which he did testify in this case, which I thought was weird, and I don't think the judge particularly was interested or credited much of what Justin had to say, because he didn't really care about what Justin had to say. And I think Justin came off kind of cocky and kind of like a jerk. So, but what he did say in this case was said under oath. So anything he said in this case could be used to impeach him in the family law case if he testifies differently during that case. So, yeah, he's locked into what he testified to in this case. Yeah. Hi, she opines. Are you willing to update us on the custody, especially if this is not guilty? I know you're up against a lot. I would very much like to. And I'm really planning on continuing our Wednesday night dates. Um, I'm going to have a surgery in there, so I don't know timing wise what that is going to look like. And I don't 100% know the extent of the surgery yet. So um, if it is as I expect, and I'm going to have a lumpectomy, I think the recovery is easier. And so we could be meeting sooner on Wednesday nights. I will keep everybody updated about what's going to go on Wednesdays and whether or not I'm going to be able to do that. So April is going to be difficult, but I would very much like to update you once we know about the family law case. Those dates are, I think there's at least one date early in April, but it may be that the full hearing doesn't happen until mid-April. I'm going to double check the dates, and I'll try and take a look at that because I would very much like to continue to follow Kelsey's case and the family law piece of it, because y'all know I did family law as well as criminal law, and there are a lot of overlaps in places where the two sort of areas um, come together. So I will sure try. So not to get away from Kelsey, but any thoughts about Afro Man? Do you have a favorite Afro Man song? Prayers for recovery. Hi, normal Idaho Mon. Uh, I have to admit that I didn't watch the Afro Man trial. I know that there were a lot of people who did, and who really felt that that he was he was fully vindicated, and really felt like the police officers were once again overstepping their uh, really what stepping outside of what they should have been doing, and showing once again police corruption. I would like to go back and look at it. It just didn't work out with everything else that was going on. And so, but I have been seeing that there have been a lot of people who have been posting Afro Man songs. And I know that there are a couple of law tubers who've been saying, "Oh, Afro Man, we need an Afro Man song for Kelsey Fitzsimmons' case." So I am going to try and go back and get a little bit more familiar with what's going on. So go Ducks. Skodux is what they say. Skodux and go Beavs. We're a house divided around here, so and I know I got my beaver glass tonight. I will tell you that the duck glass that you sent, my daughter absolutely loves it, and every time she comes over, she goes right to the cupboard and pulls the duck glass out. So um, I think we'll see if there's a couple of last questions, and then we will wrap up. So, Jen, you got anything else for me, or are we ready to say goodnight? Go Beavs. For those of you who might be uh, not understand, in Oregon, we have two major colleges. We have University of Oregon, and their mascot is the duck. And then we have Oregon State University, and their mascot is the beaver, because Oregon is the beaver state. So my husband went through ROTC at Oregon State and graduated from Oregon State. And my daughter, when she went to college, went to University of Oregon, and so she is a duck. So up until I got a master's degree in creative writing, I used to say I didn't have a dog in the fight because I didn't go to either. I went to a small Catholic undergrad college for undergrad, and then I went to a private school for law school. Um, and so University of Oregon does have a law school in Eugene. So it's always been sort of a family rivalry for all of the years that the Ducks and the Beavers were in the same uh, uh, division. Uh, the very last game of the football season was always played between the Ducks and the Beavers, and it was called the Civil War. Now, of course, the Pac-12 has broken up, and Oregon State and Washington State were for a while the Pac-2. They now are reconstructing the Pac with other schools, but the Ducks have left the Pac. So we have a family rivalry. We're the Ducks versus the Beavers. My daughter and son-in-law went to University of Oregon, so they're Ducks. And when I went back and got a master's, I went to Oregon State for my creative writing master's. So I'm now a Beaver. So yeah. So I have a whole collection of these thermal glasses with Oregon State logos on them, and Grizzly sent me a couple of duck glasses so she could get equal time. So. Well, seeing no other questions, I'm going to say goodnight. I want once again to thank all of you for your tremendous support. I want to thank those of you who have sent me your experiences and shared with me your breast cancer journey. It certainly has been an eye opener for me, and I appreciate all of everything that you've shared. I also want to thank you so much for those of you who have included me in your prayers. Yes, Tiff Knox. like the Huskies and the Cougars, that is Washington. That's University of Washington Huskies and the Washington State Cougars. My very favorite sister from my first marriage was a Cougar. And so anytime the Beavers play the Cougars, it is a really big deal. But you're right. So once again, I want to say thanks to everybody for your tremendous support. Jen, as always, my wonderful moderator who I couldn't do this without, and who has been lovely and supportive as well. So I want to thank everybody. I'm going to put updates in the community note about what's going on scheduling wise, because I do want to keep you up to date. And I also want to be able to let you know when I'm going to be available and when not. Like I say, I would very much like to come back on live for the verdict for Kelsey. And I'm pulling up my phone and my calendar. So I do have a couple of appointments going on. I do have a 1 o'clock appointment tomorrow. So if in fact we get a verdict tomorrow afternoon, I would try and pop on if I probably right after the fact. So thanks again for all your great support. And I'm going to say goodnight. I hope I'm going to see you tomorrow afternoon. But I definitely will see you next Wednesday. So have a great week and we'll talk soon. Good night.